I never imagined a simple moment would lead to a heart-wrenching twist of love. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. It started out like any other morning sunlight streamed through my bedroom window, painting the walls in a warm golden hue. But something hung in the air, heavy and electric. My heart raced as I pulled on my favorite hoodie, the one that smelled faintly of my mother's lavender perfume. As I stepped outside, the world felt off-kilter. Birds chirped, but their song sounded like a warning. My best friend, Jake, was waiting for me, his usual bright smile tinged with something darker. "You okay?" I asked, sensing his unease. He nodded, but his hands trembled, brushing against the worn fabric of his jeans. We wandered the main street, the familiar sights feeling distorted. A coffee shop on the corner had its doors flung open, but I couldn't catch the comforting aroma of fresh coffee. Instead, I inhaled something strange, like burnt toast and burnt dreams. I glanced around, noticing a group of kids huddled near a park bench, whispering urgently, eyes wide with fear. "Did you hear?" one of them said, voice quaking. "They found a body in the river." My stomach dropped. I felt cold, as if a chill wind had snuck inside me. I had always imagined these things happened in movies, not in our quiet town. "Who?" I whispered, but the kids didn't respond, lost in their own panic. My heart thudded against my ribcage. Jake grabbed my arm, his grip tight enough to hurt. "We need to go back," he said. "This isn't good." The sounds of the street faded as we walked back home. I could practically hear my heartbeat echoing, a relentless drum of anxiety. I wanted to believe it was just a rumor, but as I stepped inside my house, bracing against the door like a shield, dread pooled in my chest. My mom's voice cut through the silence. "It's true," she said, her expression riddled with pain. "A girl from your school, she's gone." The words hung like a heavy fog, stifling. "Clara," I breathed. "My best friend." My heart raced with memories of shared laughter, late-night secrets, and the way her smile lit up the darkest days. Then, my phone buzzed violently on the table. One message. From Clara. My breath hitched in my throat. She had sent it moments before "Meet me by the river. I need to tell you something important." Tears blurred my vision. Clara couldn't be gone. Not now. Not like this. A sick feeling twisted in my stomach. The world spun as I faced Jake, panic etching his features. "What did she mean?" I asked, voice barely a whisper. What could she have wanted? But the answers hung in the air like a death sentence, elusive and heart-wrenching. "Hey! Before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon, and while you're there, smash that like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The ache in my chest deepened as I slowly let the truth sink in. Clara was gone, snatched away by something incomprehensible, something cruel. Just hours ago, she was alive, vibrant, our shared secrets brewing another adventure, another laugh, another memory. Now she was just gone. Jake's grip on my shoulder tightened, grounding me in that throbbing moment, though I could tell he felt just as lost. "What do we do?" he asked, his voice laced with desperation. I could see his own turmoil battling to break free, but I felt paralyzed, a heavy weight pressing down against my heart. "That I need to go to the river," I said, my own voice surprising me. The words emerged with an urgency that bordered on reckless. Clara's last message flashed in my mind, an echo begging for understanding. Maybe she left something. Maybe there's a reason she wanted to meet. Without waiting for a response, I dashed out of the house, my sneakers slapping against the pavement like a frantic heartbeat. The trek to the river felt eternal, each step tearing through the numbness that threatened to engulf me. The street lamps cast long shadows, and for a fleeting moment, I imagined Clara beside me, laughing at my impatience, as she always did when I reached the riverbank. the familiar scent of fresh water twisted into something bittersweet. Clara always loved this spot, the way the sunlight made the water shimmer like diamonds, the sound of the gentle current like a calming lullaby. But today, it felt haunted, each ripple whispering her name as if they were mourning her loss. I scanned the ground, my heart racing. There had to be something, anything to keep her memory alive, a piece of her that I could hold on to. I stepped closer to the edge, desperate for clarity, when a glint caught my eye. It was a small silver locket, half buried in the dirt. With trembling hands, I dug it out, my pulse quickening as I opened it. Inside was a photo of Clara and me from last summer, our faces bright with silly grins, the world behind us clueless to the future ahead. Beneath the image, a piece of paper lay folded. I unfolded it, revealing Clara's delicate handwriting. If anything happens to me, remember the truth. Find the key. I froze, confusion battling with fear. What did she mean? The key? My mind raced, grappling with the implications. It felt as though the ground beneath was shifting, revealing a hidden layer of mysteries I had never known. Suddenly, footsteps approached. I whipped around, heart pounding. It was a stranger, a tall figure, dressed in dark clothes, their face obscured by a hoodie. I felt an instinctive urge to recoil, but curiosity rooted me in place. They stopped a few feet from me, their intense gaze piercing through the dim light. "Are you looking for Clara?" the person asked, their voice soft but laced with something ominous. The air thickened around us, and I felt an uncomfortable shiver run down my spine. I stammered, clutching the locket tightly. "Who are you?" The stranger stepped closer, shadows swirling around them. "You don't understand, do you? It's not over. The truth is darker than you can imagine." I swallowed, fear gripping my throat. "What do you mean?" Before they could respond, a shout rang through the air. Jake had come running, panic written all over his face. "There you are." His voice dropped as he caught sight of the stranger. "Get away from her," Jake warned, stepping in front of me protectively. The figure glanced at Jake, then back at me, an unreadable expression flitting across their face. "You need to be careful. The truth is buried deeper than you think." With that, they turned and vanished down a winding path, leaving my head spinning with unanswered questions. The revelation weighed heavily on my heart. I grasped the locket tightly as if it could shield me from the impending storm. I had thought Clara's death was shocking, but now it seemed to be the tip of an iceberg, mysterious, deep, and dark. What was that about? Jake inhaled sharply, his brow furrowed with concern, bringing me back to the present. I think Clara was onto something. She wanted me to find something, a key. My voice trembled, both from the weight of my words and the uncertainty of what lay ahead. "Well, whatever it is, we'll figure it out together," he promised, determination taking shape in his eyes. "But first, we need to warn your mom. She deserves to know the truth." As fear and a flicker of hope tangled within me, we started back down the path, the river fading behind us. But my heart whispered doubts, the looming darkness threatening to swallow us whole. What truth did Clara want to share? And who was that stranger? As we neared home, the weight of the unknown tightened its grip, leaving us both teetering on the edge of revelation, heavy with uncertainty, and preparing for a tumult arising from the shadows. The house felt suffocating as we entered, the anxious air thickening with every passing second. Jake and I exchanged a glance, a silent conversation filled with more questions than answers. My heart pounded as I stepped into the living room, where my mother sat in silence, her eyes red-rimmed and vacant, the world around her seemingly forgotten. She looked so small, so vulnerable in her grief. "We need to talk," I said, my voice trembling despite my determination to stay strong. The words were heavy as I approached her, Jake following closely behind, ready to lend his support. My mother looked up, her gaze drifting between us, confusion etched across her features. "What is it?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper, as if speaking louder might shatter the fragile calm she clung to. "Clara, she wanted me to find something. A key." I hesitated, unsure how to connect the pieces of this catastrophe. How could I tell her that Clara might have known something dangerous? That the danger extended beyond her death? But Jake stepped forward, taking the lead with a gentleness I admired. We think something might have happened to Clara that she wanted to warn us about. We found this at the river. He gently placed the locket in my mother's palm. My mother's fingers closed around the locket, her eyes widening. Where did you find this? She asked, her voice suddenly strong, a flicker of hope igniting in her eyes. By the river. It has a note from Clara. I drew in a breath, trying to harness my racing thoughts. She said if anything happened to her, we need to remember the truth. Tears shimmered in my mother's eyes as she opened the locket and read the note. I could see her face morphing with emotions, confusion giving way to the depths of despair. Then flickers of understanding. What truth? She murmured, her voice trembling. We don't know yet, I admitted. But we have to find out. There's more to this than just what happened. It was hard to sound so confident. My own doubt gnawed at me, but I pushed through. Before she could respond, the doorbell rang, slicing through the heavy silence. Instinctively, I felt a chill run down my spine. The stranger? Could they have followed us? You'll get it, Jake said, his protective instincts kicking in once more. He left the room, and I watched my mother's face as a mix of anxiety and hope danced behind her tired eyes. I felt a swell of gratitude for Jake. His unwavering resolve was a balm for my faltering heart. Then came the muffled voices from the hallway. The tension in the air thickened, coiling around my chest. I wished the weight of the moment would dissipate, but it remained, a constant reminder of Clara's absence and the painful uncertainty of what lay ahead. Jake stepped back into the living room, his expression taut. "This Deputy Sanchez," he said, urgency coloring his tone. "She wants to talk to us. All of us." My mother's face paled at the mention of an officer. She clutched the locket as if it were a lifeline. "What does she want?" "I don't know, but it can't be good," Jake replied, his eyes flickering to me, uncertainty lingering between us. "Maybe it's about Clara," I suggested, a desperate hope clawing at my heart. Maybe they found something, anything that could lead us closer to understanding her death. We gathered ourselves and made our way to the front door, my heart hammering in my chest with every step. When I opened the door, Deputy Sanchez stood resolutely, her presence unervingly businesslike, underlined by a hint of sympathy. "Thank you for coming," she said, turning to my mother first. "I'm sorry for your loss," she continued before glancing at me and Jake. "But I didn't come here for condolences." "What is it?" I asked, my voice a whisper, fear tightening its grip around me once again. "There's something we need you to see," she stated, her voice firm but solemn. Before I could respond, she reached into her pocket and pulled out a small evidence bag. Inside, something shiny caught the light and my breath. "Was it the key? Your friend was involved in something before her incident. We believe this might help shed some light." As she handed it to me, my fingers trembled against the cold surface. The realization crashed over me, an overwhelming storm of emotions threatening to pull me under. Clara had known. She'd been warning me, even in her silence. Why would she have this? I stammered, staring at the key beyond the plastic barrier. "Like I said, we need to talk," Deputy Sanchez replied, her eyes pinning mine with gravity. With a single gesture, she stepped back, inviting us out into the night, where the shadows lengthened and the world outside waited, unknowingly burdened by the secrets it held. As I wrapped my fingers around the key, I couldn't shake the feeling that I had just edged closer to a dark truth that Clara had hoped to protect me from. The air hummed with tension as we followed the deputy, a mix of dread and an ember of resolve igniting within me. What lay ahead was uncertain, but one thing was clear: everything was about to change, and I had to be ready for whatever darkness we were about to uncover. The night wrapped around us like a shroud, every step toward the deputy's car steeped in the weight of unspoken fears. I could feel Jake's presence beside me, a firm anchor against the tempest swirling inside my chest. My mother had fallen silent, her eyes distant and glistening under the uncertain light of the porch. I felt a pang of urgency. I needed to unravel this mystery and protect her, no matter the cost. "Just breathe," Jake whispered, his tone soothing despite the tension radiating through him. As we climbed into the back seat of the cruiser, Deputy Sanchez glanced at us in the rearview mirror, her expression fluctuating between professionalism and concern. "I know this is difficult," she began, her voice steady but soft. "But it is crucial we piece together what Clara might have been entangled in. This key may lead to answers, but it could also open doors we're not prepared to walk through." The shadows of the trees outside rushed by, dark figures stretching and receding like the very secrets they concealed. I watched the landscape transform into a blur, my heart racing in sync with every thump against the cold leather of the seat. "Where are we going?" I ventured, my voice betraying the unease that settled over me like lead Theo the station. She replied, hearing the tremor beneath my words. "We have a few leads we want to discuss, as well as a location linked to the key." She emphasized location, and I felt a knot tighten in my stomach. Jake shifted beside me, squeezing my hand lightly, an unspoken message of solidarity spilling over in the dim lighting of the cramped car. It was comforting, but it didn't erase the rising tide of apprehension. Clara, in her death, had managed to pull us into a perplexing labyrinth of darkness. After a few moments of silence punctuated only by the soft whir of the engine, Deputy Sanchez cleared her throat. "Clara wasn't just a victim. It's become clear she was involved with someone or something, people who may not have had her best interests at heart." A chill ran down my spine. "What do you mean? Who?" "We're still trying to connect the dots. But there were reports of a group operating nearby, rumors of illegal activity. Clara may have accidentally stumbled upon something she was never meant to see." I felt the world inside me tremble as I processed each word. Clara had been living in shades of gray that I had never wanted to imagine. How had I been so blind? As we arrived at the station, I could see the tension in Jake's shoulders. He was taking in the gravity of the situation. Yet beneath the apprehension was a flicker of fierce determination. "We'll figure this out together," his eyes seemed to say, urging me to remember we were not alone in this chaos. Deputy Sanchez ushered us inside, where the stark fluorescence buzzed overhead, casting harsh shadows on the beige walls. I could see desks cluttered with files and scattered notes, evidence of the stories lurking just beneath the surface. "Wait here," she instructed, then disappeared down a corridor. Jake and I stayed close, our hands still intertwined, seeking comfort in one another. I looked around, every moment drumming a heartbeat of anticipation. I had to ask, "Jake, do you think we're going to find out what happened? Any information about Clara?" The tremor in my voice mirrored my fears. "We will," he reassured me, pulling me slightly closer. "But no matter what we discover, we'll face it together." For a fleeting moment, I sensed a warmth igniting within my chest, a reminder of how fiercely Jake had stood by me. I leaned into him, momentarily letting my guard down in the midst of turmoil. Just then, Deputy Sanchez returned, holding a folder that appeared heavy with secrets. "I've managed to arrange a bit of a surprise," she said, her voice serious. "We've documents tying Clara to a young man named Eli. He was part of a group we suspect is involved with what she might have uncovered." My heart dropped at the name, the weight of it hitting me like a punch. Eli was not just a stranger. He was Clara's close friend. Is he linked to her death? I managed to croak, my heart roaring with dread. "Unknown," the deputy replied, her brows knitted together as she studied us. "But there are indications they shared more than just friendship. Emotions can blind us to the danger looming just outside our line of sight." At that moment, something heavier than fear churned in Meth's irrepressible urge to protect the memory of Clara, even if it meant wading into waters murkier than I ever anticipated. "We need to find him," I stated, a sense of resolve eclipsing my earlier fears. "Agreed," Jake echoed, his hold on my hand tightening, a supportive strength anchoring me in uncertainty. But before the deputy could respond, my phone buzzed in my pocket, a jarring interruption that shattered the fragile web of focus we had just begun to weave. I fished it out, my breath hitching at the unexpected number illuminating the screen. It stretched across the display, a number I had never expected to see so soon. It was Clara's number. The moment my eyes flicked across Clara's name on the screen, everything around me dulled to a muffled hum. The words Deputy Sanchez had just spoken receded into the background, an echo of the real world that felt too far away now. My heart galloped in a wild frenzy as I hesitated, fingers hovering above the screen. How can this be? I whispered, barely managing to form coherent thoughts. Is it her? Is she alive? Jake's voice broke through the haze, a mix of hope and disbelief dancing in his eyes. No, she can't be. My mind raced, racing through every deadly possibility. Was this a cruel prank? A glitch in the matrix of my grief? Answer it, Jake urged softly, his grip on my hand unwavering. A steady bluff against the raging river of confusion inside me. Breath caught in my throat. I pressed the green button. It rang twice before a familiar voice emerged, delicate and fragile, barely above a whisper. Zoe? Is that you? Clara? I stammered, my words thick with disbelief. Is it really you? There was a pause, a deep inhalation that spoke volumes of what she must be feeling. I'm so sorry for everything. I don't have much time. They're looking for me. The world spun on its axis, and I felt weightless, caught in the dizzying logic of reality unraveling before me. Who is looking for you? Clara? Where are you? I don't know how to explain. Her voice faltered, desperation threading through each word. You need to listen closely, Zoe. Eli is in danger. The call suddenly crackled into silence, the connection splitting with a finality I couldn't comprehend. Clara? Clara! I yelled, panic coursing through my veins. Don't hang up. Please don't. But the line had gone dead, leaving a hollow ache where the sound of her voice had just echoing moments before. The emptiness settled into a thick fog of dread, and I pivoted sharply to face Jake, the urgency piercing the whirlwind of my emotions. We have to find her. I can't lose her again. Jake's expression was a mixture of concern and determination. What did she say? Was it really her? Yes, it was her. My hands were trembling, and I brought them to my face to steady my spiraling thoughts. She said Eli is in danger. They're looking for him. Then we have to act quickly, if we're going to get to Eli before it's too late. His resolve ignited a flicker of purpose in my heart. Deputy Sanchez, who had been observing us with a keen gaze, cleared her throat. You realize this complicates things further. We can't endanger the investigation by jumping into a situation we don't fully understand. But Clara called me, I exclaimed, urgency spilling out of me. She's alive, and her words were clear. We need to find Eli first. That's the key to everything. Skepticism washed over the deputy's face, but the concern in her eyes deepened, and she nodded as if weighing the implications of our next move. We'll need to coordinate with our team. You can't act alone. Can't we just follow Clara's lead? Jake interjected. If she's reached out, it means she wants our help. Fine, Sanchez relented, her voice holding a mix of authority and care as she grabbed her radio. But I'm not doing this without support. I'll have a team send to your location to regulate. But you both need to stick to me and keep your heads down. The knot of worry tightened in my chest. Uncertainty wasn't something I could afford now. What if she was trying to warn us about something far worse? Something we don't know yet? The deputy looked at me seriously, her face etched with the burden of withheld knowledge. That's why we can't afford to panic. If what she told you is true, the stakes are much higher. We're in the middle of a web spun from deception and danger. As we made our way out of the station, I tried to swallow back the surge of anxiety that felt justified. But I wanted hope to pull me through. There was a glimpse of light in this darkness that had tangled around us for far too long. Before we even reached the cruiser, my phone buzzed again. This time I hesitated before checking the screen. It was an unknown number. What now? Jake asked, anxiety lacing his voice, urgency spiking with every passing second. With trembling hands, I answered, my heart thrumming wildly. Hello? Zoe, I need to meet you. It's about Clara. About Eli. The voice was low, shaky yet laced with urgency that sent a jolt of fear through my body. Who is this? I demanded, though a part of me already knew. Someone who knows how deep this goes. Someone who can help. And at that moment, beneath the looming clouds of uncertainty, under the cold weight of fear and looming shadows, I realized that every step taken forward was going to unravel something monumental. Maybe it would destroy what remnants of peace I had left, or maybe it could restore everything I'd lost. But just as hope ignited, an unsettling thought crept into the back of my mind. How could I trust a voice from a number robbed of identity? My pulse quickened, leaving me with the lingering notion that finding Clara could very well spark the return of nightmares long left buried. Where? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper, trepidation lacing each syllable. Meet me at the old bridge, 7 p.m. Come alone. The call ended abruptly, and for a terrifying heartbeat, I didn't know whether to feel hopeful or terrified. As we approached the car, I looked at Jake, who had felt the weight of my distress in every fiber of our connection. We're in this together, he urged, his voice laced with protective conviction. But I knew this would test our resolve, and my heart shook with uncertainty about the confrontation looming ahead. The setting sun painted the sky in hues of orange and pink, a stark contrast to the turmoil roiling in my chest. As we drove toward the old bridge, each passing moment felt heavier than the last. Fear and anticipation muddled together into a cocktail of emotions incapable of being processed, each swallow of my anxiety stinging like bitter ash on my tongue. Jake glanced at me through the dim light of the cruiser's dashboard. You okay? His voice was laced with genuine concern, blending seamlessly with the shadows around us. I wanted to say yes, to reassure him that I was still standing, still fighting. But the truth was an unraveling thread, and the more I tugged at it, the more I feared it might all come undone. I don't know, Jake. What if this is a trap? What if it's not Clara on the other end of that call, but someone who wants to hurt us? Then we keep our guard up, he replied, unyielding. I won't let anything happen to you. His words were a balm but also a burden, each promise I could feel wrapping tighter around my heart. We wove through backroads, the air thick with untold fears and doubts, the kind that rested like stones heavy in response to the question blossoming in my mind. Could Clara really be alive? Or was it the shock of grief molding my perception, leading me to chase shadows? Arriving at the bridge, we parked under the dim illumination of flickering streetlights. The aged wooden structure loomed ahead, a relic from a time before everything fractured in our lives, before Clara vanished, before our worlds splintered under the weight of loss. Silent echoes of laughter and shared secrets reverberated in the recesses of my mind, long shadows painted by nostalgia contrasting starkly with the unrelenting reality that lay before me. We should take the path behind the bridge, Jake suggested cautiously, a hand resting on the steering wheel as he scanned the surroundings. Get the lay of the land before we head out of sight. He was right, but my heart was racing, urging me to move forward, to chase the haunting melody of Clara's voice that had ignited hope. Each step I took felt both exhilarating and paralyzing, an indecisiveness hanging over me like clouds threatening a storm. When we reached the edge of the bridge, I peered over the railing, the water below gleaming dark, deep, and secretive. You think we'll find answers here? For a moment he was quiet, and I sensed his mind at work behind his sharp gaze. I think we'll find something, Zoe. It may not be what we want, but it'll be something. That we approached a clearing just beyond the bridge, an angled view of the obsidian water glimmering beneath the fading light. I shivered, not from the cool evening breeze but from the whisper of dread saturating the air. And then we waited, me heart thrumming against my ribcage like a caged bird. Finally, as the clock neared 7, my phone buzzed again. The intensity stung, and I pulled it out, dread washing over me at the sight of an incoming message from the unknown number. I'm here. 5 minutes. As the message faded into the silence, Jake tensed beside me. What now? Now we wait, I murmured, the edges of my voice threaded with vulnerability. Now we hope. The minutes dragged painfully, raw anticipation morphing into anxiety that clawed at my gut. Just as I felt the despair of doubt begin to fester, a rustling emerged from the underbrush, scattering the echoes of the night. I felt Jake's presence fortify at my side, urging it to be a shield against impending urgency. And then, the figure emerged, tall, shadowed, and cloaked in darkness, a blurred reflection of reality swimming through the growing haze of twilight. My breath caught, a chorus of emotions crashing against the walls of my heart as I stepped forward. Instinctively looking to identify the shape, Zoe, came a voice tinged with equal parts relief and caution. It was familiar yet altered, a melodic echo entwined with the essence of dreams. "I've missed you." The figure stepped into the dim light, and my breath escaped in a startled gasp. It was someone I hadn't expected, someone deeply entwined within our Lavisa. Familiar face now marked by secrets and hidden truths that drew closer yet pushed away in a tangle of clarity and confusion. "Mark?" My voice trembled, pulling away from the questions that begged to be known. "What are you doing here? You shouldn't have come." But the way he looked at me, fervent and searching, spoke of a deeper urgency. "I had to warn you. Everything you believe is about to shatter. Clara, she's not just alive. There are layers to this I can't explain here. And Eli." His words faltered. A shadow cast over his features as something darker loomed in the depths of his gaze. "What about Eli?" I barely breathed, fear embedding my heart like a splinter. A haunting call to confront the reality of a world that had spiraled out of control. "They know where he is, Zoe. And they're coming for you. For Clara. You need to trust me." Tension crackled in the air as the words sank in, an unsettling truth mingling with the hope I had clung to, clinging too tightly to allow for distraction. Just as I opened my mouth to speak, sirens wailed in the distance, spiraling toward us like pursuing shadows. "Run!" Mark shouted, fear igniting his urgency. I don't know how much time we have left. In that single horrifying moment, the illusion of safety crumbled around us. The decision lay heavy as we turned to flee, fear entwined with desperate hope. But the truth loomed before me. Trusting Mark came with a price. The shadows deepened, lurking against the flickers of what might have been, and I felt dread pool in the pit of my stomach, a premonition whispering that I could lose Clara all over again. The chaos of frantic footsteps merged with the piercing wails of approaching sirens, disorienting us in the growing darkness. We ran, my heart racing and pounding beneath the weight of fear and confusion as I glanced back to catch Jake's eye. His expression was a mixture of loyalty and silent questions, a promise hanging between us. We would find a way through this together. Mark led the way, ducking under low branches and guiding us through thickening underbrush. The shadows muffled the sound of our footsteps but amplified the chaotic thrum of my heart, a constant reminder of the threats chasing us. As we stumbled past the fringes of the bridge, something small and metallic glinted on the ground. A shard of glass? No, it was Clara's necklace, a delicate silver heart that had once brought her joy. "Wait," I cried, breaking from the group's rush. Jake grabbed my arm, his brow furrowed with alarm. "Zoe, we can't stop. They're coming." But the pull of the necklace was undeniable, and it gleamed with a whisper of hope in the shadows. "Just a moment," I pleaded, prying my arm from his grip. I knelt, fingers trembling as I lifted the necklace, feeling the cool metal against my skin. It sent shivers of memory dancing through Malauder, moments shared, the sister I had grieved so deeply. But that fleeting warmth shattered when I noticed a small note tucked beneath where the necklace had lain, its edges frayed and the handwriting faint. Jake stepped closer, eyes darting to the sound of distant engines. "Zoe, we really need to go," he urged, but I tore my gaze from the note and opened it with shaky hands. Just 3 words flashed before my eyes. "Trust no one." What? I muttered, a chill creeping down my spine. Who had sent this? Was it a warning or a cruel taunt? Mark's voice pierced through the cacophony of my thoughts. "We can't be here. They'll know we're close." "Who are they?" I pressed, anxiety clawing at my insides. "What do they want?" But all I received in response was a pained look from Mark, as if he were caught between 2 worlds, both requiring sacrifices he was unwilling to make. "Zoe, please. We have to go." Jake insisted again, and in his steely resolve, my heart swayed. I stuffed Clara's necklace into my pocket for safekeeping, a tangible connection to that flickering hope, and moved to catch up as we dashed deeper into the ravine. An idea began to form in my mind, desperate plan that I knew would bring more uncertainty but might also illuminate the truth. "We can't just run," I gasped, breathless with urgency. "We have to confront this. We can't let fear dictate our choices." Mark turned, a shadowed frown heavy on his brow. You don't understand. They're more dangerous than you think. Clara is in real trouble, and so are you. A hollow ache settled in my chest. But if Clara is alive, then she deserves the chance to fight. We can't let this control our lives any longer. The rattle of sirens grew louder, cutting through the tension, but rather than furthering Mark's resolve, it deepened the fear etched in his features. You want to try and save Clara? Fine. But know this. Light can cast shadows, and sometimes those shadows can consume everything you care about. I nodded, heart repeating a mantra of determination. Then let's bring them into the light. I won't lose Clara again. Not without a fight. Jake nodded slowly, though his concern remained, eyes darting around like a hawk. Just know that if we're doing this, we have to stick together no matter what. We enter this together and it ends together. As we plunged into the claustrophobic blanket of trees, I felt the oppressive weight of Mark's revelation wrapping around me. An underlying tangle of unease and distrust clashed against the flicker of hope rekindled by the prospect of Clara's return. The sirens echoed in the distance as we paused, panting, unsure of our next move. The shadows seemed to whisper all around us, urging me to reconsider the path ahead. But the deeper truth gnawed at my thoughts, embedding itself closer to the surface. If we were to uncover Clara's fate, we would first have to peel back the layers of betrayal and hidden truths tangled in the web of our lives, and just as I opened my mouth to voice my plan amid the looming tension, a sudden flash of headlights burst through the trees, illuminating our hiding place like a spotlight on a stage. A car screeched to a halt, engines roaring, and silhouettes poured out, dark figures that seemed all too familiar, faces woven with threads of a past I had tried to bury. Zoe. A voice rose above the chaos, a name that sent my heart plummeting, not with the rush of fear, but a jolt of stark recognition. You didn't leave me behind. The words hung in the air, clattering like fallen leaves, demanding my attention as we crouched low. I turned to see Ella's face, marking a heartbeat of memory blurring the lines of loyalty and love. And for an instant, hope flickered. Dare I dream that he had somehow escaped the grasp of darkness. It was a moment suspended in time, accompanied by the promise of decisions yet unmade, and shadows that would soon emerge to redefine everything I thought I knew. But one thing surged forward, a tangle of hope and fear spiraling in tandem. The heart-wrenching twist of love that could become either our greatest strength or our most profound downfall. The air was electric, thick with tension and the weight of unspoken words as I locked eyes with Eli. In that fleeting instant, time collapsed around us. Memories rushed in like floodwaters, warm laughter shared beneath the stars, whispered secrets in the dead of night, and the taste of fear that came when darkness threatened to swallow us whole. Eli, you're alive. I breathed, disbelief coating my voice. The slight tremor in my hand betrayed the storm of emotions battling within me. We need to get out of here, he shouted, breaking the moment, urgency lacing his tone like barbed wire. They followed me. I couldn't leave without knowing you were safe. Mark shifted beside me, the confusion blooming on his face as he glanced between Eli and me. You know him? I nodded, caught in the whirlwind of familiar faces and entwined destinies. Husha was my thoughts tangled, and the past became a figure made of shadows, casting an even deeper chasm between the present and the fears I carried. Not the time for explanations. Ella's voice cracked through the chaos, his brow furrowed in defiance. What's the plan? Confronting whoever is behind this, I replied, my heart pounding louder than the engines that seemed to embark on a relentless pursuit of us. We know Clara is in danger, and if we don't confront them, we might lose her forever. Are you crazy? Eli shot back, his eyes narrowing in real concern. Confining the darkness to one place does not mean you'll come out unscathed. I barely escaped, and now you want to dive headfirst. I can't just let fear consume me. Not again, I replied, my voice firm yet fragile. I lost Clara once. I won't let it happen again. We need to face whatever this is. As Eli inhaled sharply, I saw the flicker of worry mixed with a determination that mirrored my own. Zoe, listen to me. Whatever you think you know, whatever you believe you're fighting for, this goes deeper than just Clara. They know everything, he whispered, his voice lowering, They're watching us. You can't trust anyone. Then, almost as an afterthought, he added solemnly, not even me. The weight of his words settled around us like a dense fog, filling the silence with unspoken doubts. The warmth I felt at seeing him faded, and the realization that trust was a fragile thread began to sink in deeper. Inside me, new layers of mistrust unfurled, each one tugging away the hope that had sparked in me when I saw him. Then we need a plan that includes everyone, I insisted, my voice steadier, fueled by a flicker of resolve. There has to be a way forward that doesn't tear us apart even more. A low rumble of dissent echoed through our group, each weighing options in a mind of solitude, skepticism holding us hostage. I looked to Mark, whose expression had softened slightly, but shadows danced in his eyes. This is madness, Zoe. You could be walking into a trap. I know, I interrupted, feeling the weight of the necklace in my pocket, reminding me of the possibility that lay ahead. But the risk is worth it to bring Clara back. It's worth it if it means facing the truth. Behind me, Jake nodded almost imperceptibly, his supportive energy a steady flame in the tense atmosphere. We stick together. If we're doing this, we need to trust each other, even if it means digging into shadows. Just as the branches beyond us shook, a distant growl of a motorbike echoed through the ravine, the sound of ferocious pursuit. I turned, heart racing, and we all shared a knowing glance, a pact forged in the tense air. We rushed deeper into the underbrush, moving blindly, fear punctuating each hurried step. Eli matched my pace, the boundary that once existed between us slipping away in the shadows. But even as our shoulders brushed, the tension felt thick, the whisper of his earlier caution lingering, a reminder that trust was a fragile lifeline we all held precariously. Then, among the flickering beams of our flashlights cutting through the darkness, I caught sight of something, a Hida dilapidated cabin, cloaked in shadows, standing as an ominous sentinel. I paused, dread curling within me like a vice. We should check it out, Eli suggested, his voice resolute yet shaded by uncertainty. Feels like the right place. You're sure about that? Mark asked, skeptical but cautious. I'm not sure of anything, Eli said. His eyes glinted with a mix of urgency and resolve. But there's nowhere else to hide. We can face it together. Jake moved forward, his presence behind me offering solace. Together. But just as we approached the cabin, the shadows around us seemed to deepen, and I felt a chill reverberate through the air. A guttural sound echoed from within, like distant cries longing to be heard, threading its way through the darkness, a signal that we weren't the only ones hiding. I turned to Eli, my heart racing. What if they're waiting for us? What if this was part of their plan all along? He took a breath, gaze unwavering. Then we expose them. We drag the darkness into the light. But we need to be ready for anything. A gnawing sensation gripped me, intermingled with fear and determination, leaving me grasping for footholds of stability. I stood at the threshold between the past I couldn't escape and the present that threatened to bury me alive. As the rumble of footsteps started from within the cabin, a sudden realization washed over me, drowning the last remnants of hope. Somewhere inside those walls lay the truth about Clara, about what had truly happened and the web of betrayal that threatened to ensnare us all. And just as the door creaked open slowly, revealing darkness shifting like a living thing, I knew I had to choose between love and loyalty. The choice lay all too heavy, and with it, everything about to unravel as shadows breathed within that forsaken place. The choice that would echo in our hearts forever, shattering the fragile bonds we shared. The moment of stillness shattered as the door creaked wide, a natural curtain pulled back to reveal flickering candlelight that danced uneasily against the walls, revealing fragments of a space long abandoned. Peeling wallpaper, broken furniture, and dust motes suspended in the air like lost dreams. What met my eyes was not the chaos of sinister figures, but rather an unsettling silence, thick as fog, a void waiting to be filled with the secrets we had yet to uncover. The uproar of blood in my ears drowned out everything else as I stepped inside, Ella's presence a tense warmth at my back. Stay close, he murmured, his voice barely more than a whisper, brimming with urgency. Mark hesitated before taking a brave step forward, peering cautiously inside the cabin. This feels wrong. It's like a trap. Then let's unravel it, I urged, pushing through the doorframe. Echoes of our past played tricks on my heart. The whispered promises of safety, the comfort of friendship, now stained with this impending fear. I fought against the dark notions closing in. The candlelight flickered again, casting elongated shadows that clawed at the walls. But as I scanned the room, something caught my eye, a worn-out armchair, facing a small, cracked mirror hanging crookedly above a frayed rug. It stood there like a shrine, and dread twisted in my stomach, sensing it was more than just furniture. It felt like a witness to all that had transpired here. Zoe, Jake's voice broke through my reverie, holding my attention as he lifted a dusty photo off an old table, the glass cracked and dull. He held it at arm's length, squinting to discern its contents. You might want to see this, with obvious reluctance. I stepped closer, my heart racing as I peered over his shoulder. The faded image revealed a group of people, faces marked by blissful ignorance of the storm that would unravel them, laughter frozen in time. Clara was there, her smile incandescent against the shadows of uncertainty lurking behind those bright eyes. But next to her stood someone who twisted the knife deeper into my heart. Eli. This was taken before everything changed. Look at her, Zoe, Jake whispered, his tone gentle yet filled with the weight of what we had all lost. Look at the happiness. My breath caught, torn between longing and betrayal. Eli, how could you? I stumbled through the words, the doubt coiling like barbed wire around my throat. What do you know about this? Ellis' gaze darted away, the hard line of his jaw tightening, a look of pain flickering in his expression. I didn't know what was happening back then. I was blinded by my own demons. But I swear to you, Zoe, I didn't choose any of this. Clara was everything. She meant everything. Then why did you come back only now? The words spilled out of me, raw and jagged, each syllable echoing with an emotion too heavy to bear. Why put me at risk? Before Eli could respond, a sudden screech echoed from behind a door at the back of the cabin, bringing a fresh wave of fear crashing over us. It felt like a living heartbeat in the silence, pulsing with urgency. Something inside that room, a whisper, a cry beckoned, its presence reminiscent of Clara's essence. Zoe, please. We have to see what's in there, Eli pressed, stepping closer. It could be her, or at least some clue of what they want from us. Despite every instinct screaming at me to stay away, I nodded, compelled forward by an overwhelming need for answers. Okay, but if it's a trap, it won't be. Trust me, don't say that. Fear sparked, igniting agony in my chest at the thought of trusting again. I couldn't allow myself to be blinded. You said not to trust anyone, Eli. Not even you. Cracks of unease flickered through the air as we approached the door, each step a struggle with the weight of uncertainty. I tried to ground myself, holding on to fragments of the past and the thought of saving Clara, despite the knowledge that innocence had been fragmented long ago. Jake moved to push the door open. On 3, he said, steadying the handle. 1, 2, wait. I almost shouted, clutching Ellis' arm. I could feel the warmth radiating from him, the familiar comfort intertwined with a dread that lingered. What if this is a mistake? No risks worth taking come without fear, Eli whispered, eyes ablaze with a sincerity that made my heart ache. Past choices do not define us. We still have a chance, Zoe. His words rippled through me like a flicker of light in impenetrable darkness. Maybe Eli meant it, maybe he didn't. But let it be known, the choice still rested heavily between us. Jake kicked the door open, and the hinges groaned as light spilled into the darkness. What awaited us inside was not just a room shrouded in secrecy, but the seeds of betrayal waiting to sprout. An anguished scream rang out, and my heart stopped cold. The scream of a woman as the uncertainty crashed into us with fierce intensity. The reality gripped my throat, rendering me breathless. It felt achingly familiar, a raw reminder of the love I feared I had lost. And we were too late, standing on the precipice of destiny, teetering toward the edge of choices that could dismantle everything we fought to hold together as we rushed inside. The truth of our situation threatened to engulf us, and the door slammed shut behind us, locking away the possibility of retreat. Every heartbeat echoed like a drum roll, a herald of the storms yet to come, and there, in that moment, I realized. The darkness we had anticipated held shadows we had yet to face, some far more dangerous than we could imagine. The cabin walls felt like they were closing in on me as Jake and I stood frozen in shock, Eli's anguished expression reflecting the harrowing scream that echoed in the air like a desperate plea for help. My heart raced uncontrollably, adrift in a sea of unresolved emotions. Dread coiled tightly around my stomach while fear brought tears to my eyes. "Clara," I called out, the name ripping from my lips with all the desperation I didn't know I had. "Zoe." "Focus," Jake urged, his voice raw with urgency. The sound of our hearts was nearly drowned by the increasingly frantic cries. We needed to snap out of this, to act, but the truth was, I was terrified of what I might find. What if Clara was hurt? Or worse? Each possibility sent a fresh wave of panic coursing through me. "Stay close," I urged, my voice trembling as I moved toward the sound. The room beyond loomed deceptively quiet, yet the scream resonated deep within my bones. I didn't know what was lurking in that darkness, but I knew we had to confront it. Pushing through to the next room, I stumbled upon an unsettling scene. Clara was there, bound to a chair, her eyes wide with terror. Relief, hope, and panic surged through me all at once, intertwining into a bittersweet symphony. "Clara." I rushed forward, my breath catching in my throat as I rushed to her side. "Zoe, no, don't." She strained against her bindings, her eyes frantic as she glanced past me. "Get back. They know." Before I could process her warning, Jake stepped in front of me protectively, just as the cabin door slammed open once again. My heart dropped as a group of shadowed figures poured in, faces obscured, dressed in black like harbingers of doom. Fear collided with determination, and I felt the weight of the necklace in my pocket, Clara's belonging, grounding me in the chaos. "Leave her alone," Jake shouted, stepping forward instinctively, his posture tense as he shielded me from the advancing figures. One man stepped forward, his expression cold and calculated. "This is not your fight, kid. Back away." The glint of something sharp caught my eye, the glimmering edge of a knife as he brandished it toward us. A surge of adrenaline coursed through my veins. "You can't hurt her," I shouted, forcing my voice to be strong even as my hands trembled. "She's done nothing." The man narrowed his gaze at me, irritation mingling with something darker simmering behind his eyes. "You have no idea what she's truly involved in." That I felt my breath hitch, a pit forming in my stomach. Involved in what? But before he could reply, Clara jerked her gaze toward me with an intensity that pierced through the haze of confusion. "Zoe, trust me, don't let them take you. They are not who you think." The room was charged with tension, a terrifying blend of anger, fear, and desperation as I searched her eyes for the truth I desperately wanted. "Clara, what's happening?" I pressed. "I can help, you know," she screamed, the rawness of her voice penetrating the air. "You don't understand. This isn't what it seems. They can't take you. Two need you to remember." "Remember what?" I interrupted, fear holding tight to my heart. But before she could answer, the man lunged forward, causing Jake and me to instinctively back away. "Enough of this. Grab her," he shouted, extending an arm toward Clara. But just as we felt a wave of panic overtake us, Eli surged forward, intercepting with a fierce determination. "No," he shouted, pushing back against the closest figure with surprising strength. "You will not harm her." For a moment, chaos erupted, Jake and Eli working to fend off the attackers while my mind raced, trying to piece together Clara's warning and the countless questions screaming for answers. The fight felt surreal, a whirlwind of motion that led me on a path I couldn't quite grasp. Amid the scrambling chaos, Clara's words echoed through the haze of confusion. "Zoe, two left you the key, you have to find it." Clara's plea unveiled a beacon of clarity piercing through my daze. Somewhere within my mind, a fragment of a memory spark at a time when I was rifling through Clara's things, stumbling upon an old box. My heart raced as I realized it might contain something paramount to this moment. Eli's voice cut through the thick atmosphere. "We have to get out of here. Clara's right," I panted, struggling to process the urgency. They're here for more than just her. We need to uncover what they really want. With newfound resolve, I yelled, "We need the key. It's hidden in Clara's things." A moment of hesitation passed, uncertainty lingering in the air. But then, as if propelled by a shared instinct, we all shifted. "Let's move," I shouted, urgency lacing my tone. In a collective motion, we bolted towards Clara's quarters in the cabin, moving toward the shadow that had danced between us, deepening the resolve within me. Fear chased us, but the bond between us stood strong, forged by the dire need to save Clara and confront the darkness with our combined light. The distant sirens wailed, now juxtaposed by the burgeoning thumping of our hearts that drove our legs forward. The world outside held no solace, but in the cabin, the whispers of unspoken truths managed to weave their way into my consciousness. "Stand back," Jake yelled, attempting to push through a group of advancing figures, dark shadows clinging to the edges of our determination. And then it happened, the unexpected twist that sent my heart spiraling. In a moment of sheer chaos, the figure I had seen before, the leader of this malevolent band, swept closer and brandished a hidden dagger. I felt time slow as he lunged forward, and my instinct screamed for me to intervene. "No!" I shouted, launching toward Clara in a desperate attempt to push her away from the impending danger. But suddenly, the knife bifurcated from the shadows, plunging directly toward me. And then everything erupted into silence. Time seemed to freeze in that heartbeat, the world tenuously hanging in the balance. A warm flood engulfed my senses as warmth seeped through my shirt. I felt shock wave through my body, pain mingling swiftly with disbelief. I realized, in that chilling moment, I had stepped forward and the knife that had been intended for Clara had now found its mark in me. "Zoe!" Clara screamed, horror etching itself across her features. My knees buckled, the world around me tilting as I crashed to the floor, and I felt the ground swallow me as pain spiraled outwards from the wound. I gasped for breath, the air thick and heavy. Light flickered on the edges of my vision. "Help her!" Jake screamed, his voice steeped in panic as he knelt beside me. But in that moment, everything felt surreal, an amalgam of memories flooding my mind, drowning out pain. Clara's laughter, Jake's unwavering support, even Eli's shadowed regrets stirred into the collage of my consciousness. "Zoe, don't you dare give up!" Clara fought desperately against her bindings, tears streaming down her face as the reality of my condition sank in. Her voice resonated deep within embedded memories, a haunting melody of love I had fought to protect. I struggled, the weight of reality surpassing the pain. But then, I remembered the letter, the key. Clara warned me about something deeper that we had yet to uncover. "Clara, your necklace," I managed to whisper, and suddenly the connection zoomed back to that very moment, the power radiating around us. "Zoe, what are you saying?" Clara's words sliced through the haze of pain as I reached into my pocket, trembling fingers grasping the cold metal heart. But before I could plunge deeper into the memory, darkness swept through the edges of my consciousness, and with one last desperate gasp, I connected with her words. The truth lies at the heart of our memories. And then, as the world faded to black, I realized the truth encompassed more than survival. It was tied to every bond, every moment lost, and every reason to fight against the spiraling shadows threatening to engulf us all. That in that split second, I clung to the hope that emerged from Shadow's fiery resolve igniting within me, intertwining with the belief that love was worth fighting for, that Clara deserved to be saved. "You have to believe me." Clara's voice broke through, pulling the frayed edges of my reality back together. "You're the one who can unlock everything. Just stay with me, Zoe." And as I surrendered to the darkness, I felt waves of warmth envelop me, the invisible thread of connection weaving us together across that vast chasm, reminding me that even if I were to succumb, my love for her would endure. In that timeless instant, I grasped the truth like the key. Clara had screamed for the essence of our shared bond, a vibrant light that could pierce even the coldest of shadows. "Together, always," I whispered into the void, hoping against all odds that we would rise from the ashes. And just as darkness threatened to consume me entirely, I felt a tremor in my chest, a flickering flame reigniting within the depths of despair. As I surrendered to the pull of oblivion, I held onto one luminous thought in that moment. Love, no matter how lost, would find its way back home. And in the darkness of the unknown, I felt her reach outbound by something stronger than fear, igniting a spark that might yet illuminate the path forward. The reality of our intertwined destinies wrapped around me like a protective cloak, the shimmering memories of what we cherished igniting my spirit anew. As consciousness slipped through my fingers, I surrendered to the love that might draw us back from the precipice, back to life, back to Clara, and back to the truth that would, somehow, lead us all home together.